You good? Okay. Hopefully he's doing glasses. Let's give a big round of applause for Sarah McCullough. Thank you, Sarah. She is a senior music major here at Louisiana College, and we have a bunch of these very talented kids here, young people here at Louisiana College. But thank you very much, Sarah. Very good. Well, welcome. We are excited to have you here today for an extraordinary meeting. The first in Central Louisiana like this. We've got at this panel the movers and shakers and the people that are actively involved, whether it be through legislation or leadership, and those in the industry, to talk about something that all of us, whether it be privately, in our businesses, in our schools, are relying upon. And we're going to talk about the future, the bright future of broadband in Central Louisiana. So we're excited you're here on a Friday. It's different from our normal schedule, and with the rain, I'm sure most of you had to swim. We've got some from other parishes, probably needed a boat, but we're thrilled to have you here today. We're going to be running an expedited schedule on the front of this, and then we're going to get right to the topic at hand. We start our meetings the same every month, and we want to start it today with a word of prayer. And I've got former Senator Gerald Long here with us, who's very used to doing this. Gerald? Very good.
Join me as we pray. Father, we come into your presence today with a grateful, thankful heart that a God would care so much for his people that he would provide a perfect reason that we could love you for eternity. And it is through the power of your Son, the Lord Jesus, that we come in one voice, united, believing that all that we are going to do today will be pleasing to you. As we've enjoyed this food, Father, would we be reminded of those who do not have what we have? Would you be just as gracious in meeting their needs as you've been in meeting our needs? For each person that's here, it is a vested interest in your kingdom that our desire is to see not only your kingdom come, but that your will would be done on here as in heaven. As you've given us our daily bread, we give you thanks for this meeting. For those who will participate, we give you thanks. But above everything else, Father, we pause to tell you that we are radically in love with you. And because of this relationship you've given us through your Son, we can live life victoriously. So in the wonderful name that is above every name, in the name of Christ our Lord, we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing. Our Superintendent of Schools, Jeff Powell, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please have your seat. Dr. Rick Brewer, I know you were here a little while ago. Louisiana College is very much a supporter of our community, our business community, and our state. And each month they host us here to a great facility and great hospitality. I wanted to have him come and just welcome you. Dr. Rick Brewer.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Thank you. We are certainly glad to have you on our campus. We're in the second day of final exams, so things are quiet because two things are going on: a whole lot of studying and a whole lot of praying. At least that's what they tell me they're doing. So, but it's a great time. Thank you for being on our campus. I would like to invite you back a week from today at 11 in the morning on the front of campus next to the archway. We will be unveiling a new state marker, historical marker, in honor and memory of former Governor Jimmy Davis, who was a graduate, class of 1924, Louisiana College. And the ceremony's at 11 o'clock next Friday morning in front of campus. We'll unveil it. We have several speakers, a local gentleman who's written a book about Governor Davis, and we also have our male chorus that has an arrangement of his song I think everybody in the world knows, "You Are My Sunshine," and that will be sung as well. So if you can join us, we'd love to have you with us. But thank you for being here today. Great to have you on our campus. Thanks.
We're about to get to our program, but before we do, I have to say something. Last month, many of you were here. We had a record number of folks here because we had the Speaker of the House, many of our new Central Louisiana Delegation Caucus, and friends from all over the state. And I think I introduced everybody in here, nervous wreck, trying to not miss anyone. And as would be the case, I missed one of my best friends and someone who's probably worked harder, done more, and gotten less credit than anybody in our area. It's a thankless job that he has, and he does it to a level of perfection I don't know that I've ever seen before. Always has a good disposition, so naturally I skipped him when I was introducing him. But I want to say a thank you to Craig Smith, our police juror for Rapids. He's the president of the police jury. And you can talk as much as you want, Craig. I know it won't be much knowing you, but is there anything?
Thank you, and thank everyone here for what you're about to present us, the hard work you guys are doing. This is going to mean a lot to our area, and we really appreciate y'all coming out and what you got, get everybody on board.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Craig. This meeting, of course, it's on a Friday. Well, the reason it's on a Friday is because we're in session on Monday through Thursday, and we couldn't get here for lunch. And I thought it was important to have some of your decision makers from the state and some of the leaders be here. So Friday's worked out good, but it's a little different. But it came about because Senator Womack and I share a portion of a district. He's got the senatorial district, I've got District 27, and it overlapped. We wanted to have a town hall meeting about broadband, but COVID restrictions wouldn't allow us to do it. So when we found out they were lifting where we could, we decided what better place than to meet through the North Rapids Business and Industry Alliance. So through that idea of Senator Womack, we've been able to do that and put together a pretty impressive group of folks who are here today to talk to you. And what I'm going to ask them to do is, as Senator Womack introduces you, I know there's a mic on the desk, but I'd really like to have you come to the podium and give a little bit of a report, but then we'll use the mics if there are any questions after that. Let me run through this list real quick with you so you know who we have. Mr. Vineeth Igor, the first Executive Director of Broadband Development and Connectivity for Louisiana, which is a new office that's going to do great things for our state. Senator Beth Mizell and Representative Darrell Deschatel, who were instrumental in getting that created. Eric Peterson, he's the director of the Pelican Center of Technology and Innovation here from New Orleans. Ms. Leslie Durham, the governor's appointee to the Delta Regional Authority and been very instrumental and doing a lot with SpaceX, and we're going to hear about some of that. Of course, we've got former Senator Gerald Long, who's now got a new position and hit the ground running and doing a great job as broadband director. I think that's the term for Senator Bill Cassidy. Brian Fisher, who's the assistant general manager for Star Communications. I should know this because he and I worked together for months and months and months to get a USDA grant to put broadband into Poland and Echo. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember the name of the company. That's probably pretty important to keep in mind. But he's here. Johnny Moyer from Suddenlink. And he didn't put a name tag on. I'm just kidding with him about that, but that's okay. He's doing some great things to help us with Suddenlink. And of course, our superintendent Jeff Powell from the Rapids Parish School Board, and LeVar Greenhouse, who's the Regional Director of External Affairs with AT&T Louisiana. So with that, let me turn this over to Senator Womack, and we're glad you're here today. Hope you'll stay and stay involved, and if you have questions, there'll be an opportunity there. I also want to recognize all of our senators and elected officials and give them an opportunity to talk here in a little while also. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mike. I can tell by the turnout on a rainy day that somebody else besides what we see up here has got interest in broadband. So it's a good sign. Thanks for coming out and being a part of this panel and foreman platform today. Our first speaker, of course, is Mr. Beneath Iglar out of the broadband office in Baton Rouge. He's been a very busy man in the last 30 to 40 days, getting all over the state. I think you'll enjoy some of the things that he has to say. So, Beneath, if you would, take over.
Well, good morning, and I want to first of all thank the President of Louisiana College, Senator Womack, Rep. Johnson. We're also very lucky to have a number of our legislators who are just sitting around the corner that really speaks to the importance of this issue, not just in Baton Rouge, but frankly throughout the state. But I'm also really excited every time I come to a gathering like this when I feel, and I'm sort of a political novice, when there's alignment between the business community, the education and the superintendent, the folks that are in Baton Rouge working at the Capitol, when there's also alignment with the police juror, sheriffs, business leaders, nonprofit, folks in the academic sector. Really, that's the first, second, and third step, is everyone's on the same page, everyone wants the same outcome, and that frankly, that same outcome is high-speed broadband for all of your constituencies. So we're very grateful. I'm also very grateful. I'm also equally grateful that our office is just getting started. But I want to also recognize that the Office of Broadband within the state of Louisiana isn't just myself and the two full-time equivalents that we're going to add, but it's also, I look at it as sort of team broadband. So we have Senator Beth Mizell, who's sort of our policy wonk. You have Representative Desotel, who will share his story, who's been in the business and really understands from the private sector what works, what doesn't work, and it's a great success story. We have Leslie Durham, who represents the Delta Regional Authority, right? And she has been hyper-focused in sort of beating the roads over the last couple of years on elevating the importance, just like our legislative delegation, on the importance of broadband. And then we've got Senator Long, who is helping us at the federal level. So when I'm talking to you, it's really team broadband, and it's the folks on the right side of this table, it's the folks on the left side of this table. So just wanted to keep that in mind, that we regularly talk, we regularly have conversations, and a lot of it has to do with, again, how can we address the broadband challenge, both infrastructure and affordability, as quickly and efficiently as possible. So what I wanted to do was to present a few slides to level set expectations, level set where we are, but also to share a lot of the good things. So we're not just going to talk about problems, but we actually have solutions. And what we wanted to do is share those solutions as well to keep all of you guys informed. Let me go to the next slide. So really, in Louisiana, and this isn't just a Louisiana challenge, but this is a challenge throughout the country. If you look at broadband and high-speed broadband, your three biggest challenges are going to be infrastructure, it's going to be affordability, and it's going to be digital literacy. And if you start to look at and peel back the onion specific to Louisiana, we have close to 450,000, if not more, households throughout the state of Louisiana, a majority of which live north of I-10, in and around this area, northeast Louisiana, and then west central Louisiana. It's really an accessibility issue. Most people, when they do have broadband, are not necessarily generating the kinds of speeds that are going to be important coming out of this pandemic. Second, 43.6% of Louisianians don't have access to a low-cost internet plan. That speaks to the affordability piece. In a lot of the areas north of I-10, the median household income is substantially less than areas south of I-10. And so that presents financial challenges and issues when it comes to affordability of broadband. Number 3, digital literacy. 744,000 adults in Louisiana lack the basic digital literacy and skills required to understand how to best use broadband and using it in the ways that'll help impact your families now in the long run. So those are the problems that we're trying to solve. And again, we do have solutions for each of those challenges. The good news, if you start to look at Louisiana as compared to other states, really hats off and kudos to the private sector for making historical investments that's gotten our ranking in the top 18 of all the states when it comes to gigabit infrastructure. So between Lumen and AT&T and Cox and a bunch of other companies, big and small, they've done a really good job in laying out the path and the infrastructure to address some of the issues around accessibility and affordability now in the long run. And if you start to look at the rankings in terms of low-cost plans, terrestrial broadband, again, we're not at the bottom of the list, but we actually fare pretty good. So I just wanted to keep that in mind from a grounding perspective. If you go to the next slide, please. So why is this important, and what is the vision that we all have collectively for Louisiana? Singularly, why is it important from an economic development perspective? There's research that's been done, extensive research from Purdue University and a number of other universities in the Midwest, that for every dollar that's invested to addressing both accessibility and affordability, the economic development return is 4 times. So full stop. It is the number 1, number 2, number 3 economic development issue that we have singularly in the parishes. Why is it also important? There's a lot of federal money coming down the pipeline, a lot. It's mind-boggling. Everyone's talking about broadband. I think for the first time, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to economic development, broadband is now front and center as opposed to a nice-to-have conversation before the pandemic. It's now a absolute must, need to have, not only in all of the states to create competitiveness, but also around the world. If you start to look at the infrastructure plan that President Biden is working on, and if you look at some of the proposals from Republicans, regardless of Democrats and Republicans, broadband is going to be front and center in this new infrastructure plan that's coming down the pipeline. And if I were to do some approximated math, we're looking at maybe $1.2 billion over an 8-year period for Louisiana that we think could come as a result of the broadband infrastructure plan, or the infrastructure plan focused on broadband. A couple of other things. I'll cite the work that Leslie's been doing on the speed test, but speed tests are really important. Everyone's been talking about mapping. Everyone's been talking about areas of unserved, served. What we launched a couple of weeks ago, it is actually really spearheaded by Leslie at the DRA, is the state of Louisiana, among 7 other states within the Delta Regional Authority, had received a grant to effectively do speed tests for every household, for every parish in the state. And I'll explain what that means and why that's important as we start to look at and identify those areas of unserved, those areas of served, but more importantly, what we want to hear from all of you, all of your constituencies, the churches, nonprofits, is at the household level, what are the speeds that you're getting? And that'll help us understand and paint a picture of where those unserved areas are. With the overall vision of 2029, I know that's a long ways out, but the idea is over the next 8 years, what we want to do is provide high-speed broadband to every one of the households that are considered unserved today, and there are 500,000 households, and get them to be a position of success. So our goal is to work as quickly as possible to achieve that broadband ubiquity in every household that's unserved today. So if you go to the next slide. So, solution number one. So everyone's been talking about, I'm sure all of you guys have talked about RDOF, reverse auction. So late last year, Louisiana, a number of companies, I think there were 12 or so companies, were recipients of the Reverse Digital Opportunities Fund auction in the financial resources. So what those 12 organizations and companies are going to do over the next 6 or so years is to invest $372 million to impact approximately 175,000 households, majority of which, if we go to the next slide, are in those areas. So if you start to look at RDOF and you start to look at the areas in purple, the areas in gold, I think we're somewhere around sort of the gold area, the red area. These are the areas that are considered unserved by the Federal Communications Commission, and that $372 million is going to be focused on addressing the broadband issues for those 175,692 households between now and the next 6 years. A lot of it will be a combination of perhaps fiber to the home based on location, topography, geography. It could be a combination of satellites. Everyone's been talking about Starlink, but it'll be a combination of technologies that's going to result in higher speeds, the kind of broadband speeds that we all richly deserve as Louisianians over the next couple of years. Go to the next slide. Perfect. So when it comes to our office, what are we wanting? What is our expectation, right? And what is your expectation of all of us? One of the things that we want to do through meetings like this is really develop and convene and collaborate with a series of stakeholders throughout the state to start really informing people what is broadband, what it isn't, why is it important, and how you can get involved. So meetings exactly like this is going to be really critical for us as we continue to find the solutions to addressing the broadband challenges. And so our goal, and our office's goal, is to do these kinds of meetings in as many different parishes, if not all of the parishes, by the end of summer 2021. The second is we're looking at creating within our office a broadband toolkit, sort of like a dummies guide, a one-on-one guide on broadband. How does the community get involved? What are the steps that they need to take? What kind of stakeholders they need to potentially bring together? How can they start to prepare for this inevitability and working with all of us to addressing your broadband challenges? The second, and I mentioned Leslie, the crowdsourced mapping effort is going to be really critical. We need a big push from all of you guys and from your constituencies to really push and push and push for folks to submit a 1-minute survey, and complete that DRA survey. And the third is really helping to coordinate with all of you guys funding programs. I know it can be really complicated. It's really dizzying to see all the permutations of all the monies that none of us frankly have any rules for, okay? We're learning on a daily basis what the rules are for any and all pots of money, whether it's the Second CARES money, whether it's E-rate, whether it's USDA money, whether it's all this other federal money, whether it's the American Rescue Plan money. I'm learning every day, and for me, sometimes I have to take a step back and understand really where are all the pots of money from. Lean on us to help you with that, specifically when it comes to broadband money. The second thing that we want to do is really proactively engage all of the winners of the Reverse Digital Opportunities Fund, the RDOF participants. They've got a timeline in which they need to complete their projects. I don't want to wait 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, frankly, for them to do their job. I know that's what the FCC has given them, but I'm going to continue to push and proactively engage with them to see what we can do to help speed up their ability to execute and deliver broadband services within the state of Louisiana as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then, of course, I'm going to, I think the rep, you're going to speak about House Bill 648. But, we're working really collaboratively and as a team with the rep on a really, I guess I would call it solution number 2, broadband program that I think is going to be really impactful between now and over the next couple of months and the next couple of years. So just quickly, what are the high-level programs and initiatives? HB 648, so that's a current bill that Representative Desautels is the lead author on. It's a pot of money from the American Rescue Plan. It's $180 million that I think we're designated to get. That project and that money is coming from a part of the American Rescue Plan called the Coronavirus Capital Projects, and that money is designated largely towards capital project focused on remote access in areas of education, healthcare, workforce development, and agriculture and other areas. And so if it's successful and we continue to go down the march of this bill, then our office's job is to then execute that program and execute that bill and execute that grant program. And we're thinking by the end of the year, if we really push, we could start to award grants by the end of the year. The second is through the Delta Regional Authority. We received, again, as part of the overall mapping effort, a grant to also empower the regional planning commissions and authorities to work with all of you guys and on strategic plans and on sort of execution plans when it comes to broadband. And so I think stay tuned for that. I think that's a process that's...
Their regional planning district director is here, Heather Green.
Oh, perfect. So Heather, where's Heather? So Heather, you're at the tip of the spear for this, so I'm sure you're talking to all these folks about, we'll be there to help, but look, yes, right. But Heather's going to be an invaluable resource on the ground here to bring all of you guys together as it relates to the execution of that grant, which is really going to focus on gathering input locally, regionally, and understanding from surveys what needs to be done here locally in this area when it comes to broadband. Other broadband initiatives, we have HB 465. So Representative Johnson is working with a number of folks on this, which is really interesting legislation to potentially auction off some spectrum, which again will help provide another quiver when it comes to broadband. And also, one of the things that we want to continue to do is really stress the importance of broadband when it comes to healthcare and education. And so the more all of us can sing from the same sheet of music and continue to pound the importance of broadband when it comes to education and healthcare, I think that's going to be great for all of us, and also agriculture. And it's going to be our jobs, efforts, and office to really focus on making sure that we work with Senator Long and the senators and our congressional delegation and the folks in D.C. on really understanding the rules, the regulations of all the money that's going to be coming down the pipeline. So I'm going to wrap up. I've got a couple of quick slides. First, and I'm going to share this presentation with all of you guys so you can have it. First, homework assignment, please go to that web link, fill out the speed test. That's going to be really invaluable information. What we want is we want to get 100,000 households by the end of the year to complete that. That'll give us a great snapshot of the speeds, where the challenges are really at a household level throughout the state. The second, have a little patience. This pot of money that we're getting from the federal, from U.S. Treasury, doesn't operate like CARES money where you have to spend it really quickly. So we have a little bit of time to understand the importance of the money, how much money, and how we can execute. So have some patience, have as much flexibility, because every day we're learning something new. Be careful not to commit, this is sort of my drumbeat, any ARP money until we get rules from Treasury. But also, I think all the folks here on this table and all the folks that have known me historically, I'm a pretty accessible guy. So please feel free to reach out to me via my email, via my cell phone, and I have my cards here. Should you have any ideas, thoughts on programs or things that you have that are important to your constituency. If you go to the next slide. Again, this is a snapshot, real time, or as of maybe this morning or last night, of our speed test. So if you start to look at the red dots, those are areas of unserved. So I don't have to explain to you guys where the areas of unserved and areas of served are. But that's what we're looking at, is the more we can get that map populated of those unserved, and it'll help us with our grant program. And then the final slide, and this is all, and I wanted to make sure we put it in red, all highly subject to change. So what we're looking at from now until the end of the year, at least until first quarter of next year, is hopefully by mid-May, get the rules from the America Rescue Plan on the money for the broadband piece. I think by end of July, the first half of the $180 million would come to Louisiana. HB 648 codified by the governor over the next couple of months. Potentially looking at round one of the grant application, October 1, making decisions by the end of December, and then we would get the first half of the second half rather, not the first half, second half of the 180 by April, if not May of next year. For the $180 million, I believe we have until December 31st, 2024 to spend, to commit and spend that money for broadband, so we're going to have to work, again, collaboratively, as aggressively and efficiently as possible. And with that, that is my email. I have my cards. It's my Twitter feed where I'm going to start to send a lot of information via Twitter. But looking forward to working with all of you and appreciate the time.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Senator Beth Mizell, Pro Tem, out of Franklinton, Washington Parish, who has been very instrumental last year in trying to move this forward. So, Senator, would you?
Thank you. I feel a little like I'm following Steve Jobs after Vineet got up here. A couple of things. As I'm driving here, I'm driving with my granddaughter who's working as my aide, and I said, my gosh, I don't have anything formal to say. She said, just say, we need it. And I'm really tempted to go sit down with that thought left in your head. First, it would be unfair. I want to tell you what a perfect situation we're in when we have somebody like Vineet who is there because of legislation passed and authored by Representative Desautels last year. Otherwise, we'd have this giant bunch of money coming in, laying there. We've created, with a Desautels bill last year, we created a bucket to take the money and a very capable person to find a spoon to put it out. Otherwise, we'd be sitting here wringing our hands and not able to tell anybody why we can't get them broadband. I believe it's incumbent on us to not, my husband hated when I use this expression, don't fritter the money away. Don't fritter it away. When are we ever going to have $1.2 billion coming in for something that we so desperately need as now? It's incredibly important, and I believe the role you all have is to hold everybody accountable to use that money in a way that's going to serve the people we're here for. So you have to stay after us. We're all going to stay after Vineet. And I think we want to see that map look a lot different in a year. I mean, I know that RDOF is going to be a slower process, but it's one thing to have the map and to know something's about to happen. When I drive down a road, usually it's in Mississippi, and I see they're digging fiber optics, I'm like, wow, that's what I want to see on my road. And we all want to see that. Meanwhile, the big problem we had, and I believe Representative Desautels would agree with it, was when we're trying to carry, I had a broadband bill, and then we did in parallel. People don't know. How many people in here have no broadband at home? Okay. That's really not bad. I was really thinking it was going to be a much, I have a hotspot. You have a hotspot. So, I mean, I can connect, but if I watch, I can't put it on a YouTube. It goes in and out. My kids can't watch their homeschool. They can't watch, the lectures and things. And that's frustrating. But we have college students, and I know you all know this, who can't do their courses, and COVID emphasized that. I got an email last night from a hospital CEO because they can't do the telehealth in the rural areas that they serve with that hospital. So it's more than a luxury. It's a huge opportunity for economic development. I think we all live in beautiful rural areas, And realtors tell me every week, I can't sell that property unless I can assure them they have broadband, and it's not going to happen. So that's really what I'm, Vineet is going to be the man that gets the answers from the state capitol to the people in Louisiana. And I'm just here to support it, whatever I can do, but I think it's important that all of us let everybody know that rural Louisiana needs broadband. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity, and all of us together can make it happen. So I just want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for your interest. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts on it. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Beth. Our next speaker will be Representative Darrell Desautels, who is very well versed in the industry, and we're very fortunate to have him on our panel today. Darrell.
Thank you. First, I want to start off by thanking everyone to be here, because this is a very important topic for me, and it's a very important topic for you. I'd also like to, my colleague, I think, sold herself very short when she basically said it was my bill last session that created the office. It was actually, she was a co-author and helped us a lot, but it was also these gentlemen and ladies sitting here that are also part of the legislature. They all pulled together. This was a bill that got out of the House and the Senate without any opposition. So it took the work of the entire legislature really to make that happen. And I just want to make sure that everyone understands. I didn't understand this when I got there, but one man can't do it. It takes a team, and I really appreciate the support from my colleagues. I won't talk. I'd like to maybe just talk a little bit about my past, so you can kind of understand what it is I'm doing and what I'm trying to bring to the team, if you will. I started a company in 1999, and what we started out doing was wireless microwave networks in our state. We put one of the first microwave networks in the state in Red River Parish. We connected the schools together. Since we started, we grew that to, 20-something other parishes where we did wireless wired networks to the school districts. Started evolving, and then we started building out fiber to these school districts. Well, you can about imagine the school districts that we were in were not Baton Rouge or Lafayette or Shreveport or Monroe. These were rural school districts in rural Louisiana with major issues. They could not communicate between schools. So that was the niche. So I've been in, I'm going to call it rural broadband for the last 20 years. Well, I sold the company a few years ago, but we migrated that company into a fiber company, and then we started selling services to other carriers. So I've been across the state. I've probably been I've been in every parish in the state. I've ridden so many roads in our state I can't tell you. But so I really understand what it takes to deploy broadband in our rural Louisiana. Because I think, a lot of times no offense to Vineet, but we have people with great ideas. But they need somebody to help them say, you know what, it's a great idea, but we had this obstacle and this obstacle we knew to overcome, and this is how I think you should do it. So that's kind of what I'm bringing to the table. I think we all understand the need. We all understand and we know it, that we need it. But I think, the most important thing that I'm getting out of this is we had 200,000 kids this past year that were unable to do distance learning in our state because of the lack of broadband. And to me, that's unacceptable. But it also, it may open my eyes. Louisiana is not going to get better by bringing up just a part of our state. If we want to be better as a state, we want to compete, we have to bring up Northwest Louisiana, Northeast Louisiana, Central Louisiana. We all need to be brought up We can't have just our populated cities driving our economies. We need rural Louisiana to drive our economy. We have great assets here in central Louisiana. We have great assets in North Louisiana. There's no reason that our communities can't, perform. But I'll tell you this, if I'm an investor and I have a company, I'm probably not moving my business and my employees to an area with no broadband. It's just not going to happen. So to me, this is the building blocks of a better Louisiana. This is the cornerstone for us to make our state a better state. So I appreciate all the support from the legislators and you and everyone else. So thank you, and please reach out to me if you need anything. I'm just like Vidith, excuse me, very accessible. So just email me or call me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and your concerns. Thank you.
I was encouraged a couple of weeks ago when I visited with Darrell as representing the people, and affordability was brought up. And that's a big thing, affordability, that we can afford for our constituents when we do get it there. So he probably wouldn't have said that, but I do want to make that comment. Mr. Eric Peterson with the Pelican Institute, take it.
So you're probably wondering who I am, since I am not an elected official, and you're wondering what I have to say about broadband. So let me start with that. The Pelican Institute is a think tank around the state of Louisiana focused on creating more jobs and opportunity around the state. Specifically, I work for our Center for Technology and Innovation. And my goal in doing this in the state of Louisiana is to make Louisiana a more innovative place, a place that attracts entrepreneurs, attracts businesses, and grows the state, especially in regards to the technology industry. So one of the things that, of course, we are very focused on is broadband, specifically rural broadband. In fact, we have a report coming out next week. I have some early copies of it here on the state of rural broadband in Louisiana. So I want to start with a few figures. I know Vineeth gave a great presentation, but I want to try to put some of those numbers in context about how big the digital divide is in the state of Louisiana. Louisiana, 96% of people living in urban Louisiana have access to broadband internet. That is 25 megabits per second download, 3 megabytes per second upload. That goes all the way down to 62% if we're talking about rural Louisiana. More than 1 in 10 people in the state of Louisiana do not have access to 10.1, which is basic internet. We're talking like the ability to read emails or get to a web page. That is a huge problem for the state of Louisiana, and thankfully we have so many great people working on that. You've heard from many of them before. As Vineeth said, we got quite a bit of money from the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. We actually got the 4th most per rural resident. We got over $400 per rural resident. I do want to give a quick shout out to Representative Mike Johnson, who we've been working with very closely on the 4.9 gigahertz spectrum. I did a quick speed test on my wireless phone from AT&T. I'm getting 50 megabits per second download, 25% megabits per second upload speed here. That is because 5G, right? We're spending a lot of time talking about infrastructure, and infrastructure is incredibly important. But as Representative Desitel said, he started in the wireless internet industry. I know many of you, or probably all of you, have a smartphone in your pocket. We know we don't just get online sitting at our homes, plugged into the router, right, or on Wi-Fi, right? What it's really going to take to connect Louisiana is a mix of all kinds of important technologies to push the state forward, and that is going to include fiber infrastructure. It is going to include opening up spectrum. It is going to include more wireless towers, so we have better wireless internet across the state. It's going to include Starlink. I think we might hear from some folks talking about them later. They're saying that they can cover the entire state by the end of 2022. So what does that mean, right? It means that at minimum, everybody in the state should have access to one wireless provider. For those that already have access to high-speed internet, that means we're finally going to start to see some competition. We're going to see the free market really work to try to bring down those rates and increase connectivity, and that is going to be a good thing for the state of Louisiana. So I know a lot of people have talked about where we are, what bills are moving forward, but I'm going to give some other ideas on some things that I think are going to be equally important for the state. Again, we've talked about, we might see up to $1.2 billion coming into the state, but as Senator Mizell said, we don't want to fritter away that money. And unfortunately, I think for too long, a lot of that money has been frittered away in the state of Louisiana due to some things I think are very easy fixes. Last year, Representative Mizell passed a dig once policy. All that means is when there's infrastructure, we're digging trenches, we're fixing roads, that companies have the ability to lay fiber. That can reduce the cost of laying fiber by 90%. I'm going to say that one more time. Reduce the cost by 90%. And what does that mean? That means that in areas that is not economical to lay fiber out to right now, it suddenly makes it possible to do so. But that takes coordination, that takes work by local government, state government, working with the private industry to understand that. We also have incredibly high right-of-way fees. If you have a business, and I assume many people here do have a business, if you've tried to get connected and go across a state highway, they have to pay a $20,000 right-of-way fee to go under there. And that is a cost that is outrageous, but it is something that we're not talking about right now at the Capitol, but it will stretch our broadband dollars. This is an easy change, but often you run into special interests or folks who just don't know about these sorts of things. I can cite fees for going under railroad tracks, for accessing towers. A lot of this, thankfully, has been dealt with by the FCC. But there is still a lot of work to be done in the state of Louisiana to making sure that all of this money goes as far as possible. As I finish up my comments, I'm very heartened today to see everybody here about, so interested in broadband, because I think it's the thing that's most missing from the policy discussion. Most of the talk has been on accessibility. And like I said, when only 60% of rural Louisianans have access to internet, that is certainly a problem. But really, I think that the biggest issues are digital literacy and affordability. I'm going to cite a study, or not study, but a study from the NTIA, National Telecommunications and Information Agency. They did a poll in 2019, so this is a little bit with a grain of salt. This was obviously pre-COVID. They asked folks in Louisiana, what is the number one reason you are not online? And 60% is because they said they do not need the internet. That is the majority reason that people are not online in the state of Louisiana. The number two reason was affordability at 18.6%. Not available in area was 5%. So what are we talking about here, right? Louisiana, like most of the country, has an aging population. Folks who lack digital literacy skills, they don't see the need for getting online. And even if they do, they don't know how it is going to impact their lives. Louisiana has an important agriculture state, or is an important agriculture industry. Many of them don't understand how the internet can really impact their business, can make it more productive, they can get better prices for their crops, and that is going to take the people I look in this room right now to come together as civil society, come up with education programs, and work to really make that important. Because the other important thing for education is adoption rate. A lot of the reasons that internet service providers will not go out to these areas is obviously it's expensive for many of the reasons that we talked about before. But even if they build out to these areas, they're going to see very low adoption rates. And that means that they have no incentive to go out and build out there. And that is sort of the reason why we need the influx of federal and state cash. But again, even if we build out to these folks, it's not really a field of dream scenario where if they build it, people will adopt it. It's going to take work by everybody on this room to make that happen. So again, it was a pleasure to speak to all of you. I hope to answer your questions. I can especially talk to a lot of the stuff that is going on the federal level right now with the various broadband plans. But I'm very heartened to see so many people in this room today, because it will take community grassroots engagement to increase education, to increase adoption, and that will ultimately be what closes the digital divide in the state of Louisiana. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Our next speaker would be Leslie Durham with Delta Regional Authority.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Representative. And thank you all for being here. I know this is kind of getting long, and y'all are getting a lot of information. I want to for just a moment, give you some examples of what we're kind of talking about up here and what it looks like. So, we could throw a lot of money at this and we could get everybody broadband, some kind of broadband. Are they going to use it? Can they afford it? That's the other questions. It's like you can raise it up this way, but is it going to fall or raise on this other side? We literally did this about 17 years ago. We had a good bit of money come through USDA. 12 parishes in northeast Louisiana were hooked up with Cadillac absolute Class A broadband. 12 parishes. And today, what they have today is obsolete. And they are not using it. The position, the location where it actually went to be able to qualify was a community that was supposed to have free internet for 2 years so they could learn what to do and embrace it. They did not. And that community is almost a ghost town today. So we can't just do one thing. You can't not just go after one. You have to do the accessibility, the affordability, and the digital literacy that you've been hearing about today. But quickly, I work for the governor. I represent the governor with the Delta Regional Authority. We were able, I'm still not sure how we did this, y'all don't tell anybody, but we got the whole state of Louisiana included in a Delta Regional Authority project. I don't think the other states have figured that out yet, so y'all don't tell them. But I am a competitive person, and Kentucky's beating us, just so you know. They started a little bit ahead of us, so it's not our fault. But that broadband map that Vineeth was talking about today, that is brand new technology that has just been available just a couple of years now. And we are, it's building from the ground up. So the maps that we have available to us now, there it is right there, are from the top down. So us, and I'm from Tensall Parish, you've probably been lost and went through there one time or so. You don't get a voice. You don't get a voice. Where the providers are telling them where they are, telling you FCC, and that's the conversation. That's where the maps are made. This is your map, okay? This is telling FCC where you have internet and where you don't. And you see those red dots up there. That doesn't mean internet's not available. It means that household doesn't have it, and we've got to find out why. So it is vitally important that you get everybody, you go through your contact. It's just like a church prayer chain. Make sure you reach out and get everybody connected and have them fill out. All it is your address and a speed check. That's all it is. And if you're worried about, it's anonymous, but if you're worried about some kind of privacy, just put your parish or your town or something on there and just go ahead. But we have got to get those dots covered all over Louisiana. NTIA and Treasury are looking at us right now, talking to us about wanting to use our data. And I'm like, well, just give me another couple weeks because we don't have very many dots. And so we need your help on that. Also, Vineeth mentioned Heather Urena earlier with the Planning and Development District here. She's the president of all the Louisiana Planning and Development Districts. They have partnered with us and with DOTD on this mapping effort, and they have been tasked through an EDA grant to be able to do a regional plan for this. So be in close contact with Heather. They're going to be rolling that out shortly and be in contact with everyone. But I do want to speak just quickly about our other option that we keep kind of mentioning a little bit, and that's the Starlink. The Starlink group, which is SpaceX, they were a big winner in FCC awards recently. And funny thing about this, and you know, if it makes sense, it doesn't work, right? In government, that's kind of how I've noticed. Well, this makes no sense at all. So the FCC doesn't really recognize satellite as real broadband. Isn't that right, Representative Desautel? They don't recognize satellite as broadband, but they gave them a lot of money to do it, but the same areas still qualify for fiber. So before they figure out that they have done something wrong, we have Starlink that is going to be available for everyone next year. And it's an affordability issue. It's going to be $500 for their equipment and $100 a month. And it's going to be super fast. I think I read an article last week in Colorado. They did a test on one of their systems, and I'm a little bit boggled at the speed, but they were getting over 300 megabytes per second down. You know, that's a little bit crazy. So we're going to have this available, but while this is available, and I think we should use it as a bridge. We get everybody connected. We get everybody who is having trouble getting connected, we get them linked up to however it needs, kind of like our vaccinations. When your name comes up, you get it. So whatever's available, get it. And in the meantime, we still work on fast, reliable, affordable internet. But that's what they wanted to speak today, but they weren't able to. But anyway, I will be available, and Heather's got all my numbers, and she's got secret numbers that not everybody has. So if y'all ever need anything, holler at me. I know I work close with Beneath and the rest of this group up here, and of course the governor. So but thank you. I appreciate all your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leslie. We have now ex-Senator Gerald Long, Broadband Director for Senator Cassidy's office. So tell us what it's all about.
Thank you, Senator, and I want to compliment you for being here today. It speaks volumes. I was in about a 45-minute conference call with Senator Cassidy's office today. He sends his best, and I will assure you, no one is working harder at the Washington level than Senator Cassidy. And I would be remiss if I did not tell you that all of our federal people are working diligently to make something special for Louisiana. It's interesting to note that we just elected a new member of Congress, Julie Letlow. Julia was obviously running because of the tragic loss of her husband. But here's what we know. In her first meeting in Washington, D.C., Senator Leno, her first committee meeting, the topic was what? Broadband. It is a national issue. We tend to focus on Louisiana as we should, but I want you to know this is an issue nationally speaking. I had the privilege of speaking recently with members of the committee on Representative Desautel's bill, and I was honored to do so. I'll be very brief. I do bring simply from Senator Cassidy that his office is available at any time to help you. I want to close with a personal story that I shared in the committee meeting the other day, and I was quite humbled that I received 3 or 4 phone calls and 3 or 4 emails on what I shared. When I was a freshman at Northwestern State in 1962, taking a political science class, the professor said, go home and interview someone and ask them the most life-changing event in their life. Now that's an interesting question. As we probe that in our own lives, it was a question. I chose to ask my father. Now keep in mind, my father was born in 1900, my mother in 1906. They were born in rural North Louisiana, Wynn Parish, Tanny Hill. If you leave Winfield going toward Dotson, you'll see a little small highway sign that says Tanny Hill. That's where the Longs, where we can trace our roots to in Wynn Parish. But it's interesting as I probed that question to my father, his answer. Gabe, when I asked my father that question, I would have thought he would have said something like this: when I married your mother. That would have been a good answer. Or he could have said, Mom and I had 8 boys, of which you and your twin brother were the last 2. That would have been a great answer. By the way, I'm glad they didn't have broadband back there. I may not be here today. I mean, can you imagine in 1944? Yeah. So I asked my father, thinking that his response may well be like, well, when I was a young man, I made a commitment to live a life based upon my faith. I thought that would have been a good answer, Mike. But his answer was uniquely different. This is what he said. In 1938, in rural Wynn Parish, Louisiana, the most life-changing event for the community took place when the rural co-ops brought electricity to rural North Louisiana. He said it changed our lives. He said no longer were we lighting a candle or a kerosene lantern. He said we had electricity. I want to tell you in a parenthetical way, for this generation and for the next generation of Louisianians, broadband will be the electricity that ignites their lives and makes something incredibly positive happen. That's why it's so important to Senator Cassidy and to our other delegations. It's why it's so important to the governor. This is literally a game-changing event. I would encourage you, stay patient. It's going to take some time, but you've got the A-team working on your behalf. I'm honored to be a part of it, and thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Thank you. Appreciate that story. That's a good launching pad. We're going to have Brian Fisher, Assistant General Manager for Star Communications out of Maryland.
Thank you, folks. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me to this. Representative Johnson called me and asked me to come in and give a little update on what we're doing in Rapides Parish. But I'd like to tell you a little backstory on that as well. Star Telephone is a telephone internet provider in Cheneyville or Rapides Parish, in Point Coupee, and in Iberville parishes. We offer telephone and internet service. In 2019, we were approached by the mayor of Gross Tate with some information about a grant, and we decided that we'd look into it, and it turns out it was the USDA-RUS grant to bring, in the Reconnect program, to bring broadband to rural communities. We've been trying to do that, and we still are trying to do that aside from the grant, and we saw that as a great opportunity. So with the mayor's coordination and help, we got the community involved, and we got letters of interest and support written for us to help our case get this grant. So in short, we got it, and we were awarded roughly about $15.5 million. So we're going to bring in several miles of fiber. We're going to be supplying high-speed broadband to those who want it, up to around 1,700 homes in that parish, Iberville and in Point Coupee. Well, when Representative Johnson heard about this, he approached us and he said, hey, I've got this area up in Echo and Poland above you guys in Cheneyville. And we said, well, that's great. We weren't really thinking about going up there, but he talked to us, and the more he talked to us, we saw that, well, we had to do something to help those folks. So what we did is we looked into that Reconnect, what they call round 2. It was called round 2. And we put together a plan, and we applied. And again, with the community's involvement and writing letters of support, we were awarded another grant. And that one was a little over $12 million. So between the two, we're looking, $20
$27 million that we're going to be investing in these parishes, including up in Cheneyville. Up in Echo and Poland alone, we're going to be investing about $4 million and around 94 route miles of fiber. It's long span, so it takes a while to get there. So, and it takes a lot of fiber and a lot of work. We're also going to go down into Lone Pine and help bring fiber broadband to those folks down in that area as well. And we're going to try to do those projects first before any others. We have some others going on up in the upper Point Coupee parishes, but we're going to try to get Echo, Poland, and Lone Pine on our network as fast as possible and get them access to up to gigabit of internet access if they so choose to get that kind of a speed. We're looking right now, timeline-wise, we're about 45 days out to wrap up what's called the 106 process, which is the USDA process, which looks at the historical, environmental, and tribal entity issues in any area that you're going to do construction. So in another 45 days, we expect that to be wrapped up, and then another 15 to 30 days for RUS to start the final process of the award portion of this. And then 2 months of engineering boots on the ground, we expect to start digging. So within 6 months, we're hoping that we'll be digging headed toward Echo and Poland to tie them in. And then after that, like I said, we'll drop down into the Lone Pine area. But within 6 months, we're expecting to be up in Echo and Poland. And we're excited about it because I talked to a lot of those folks, and they had hardly anything to speak of. So it's a big deal for them, and it's a big deal for STAR, and that's about all I had. So thank you for having me.
As you can see, there's several entities that's investing in this, and I'm glad to hear and know that USDA is one of those partners in this as well. At this time, we're going to bring Mr. Johnny Moore with Settlelink up.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator, and also thank you to Representative Johnson for inviting us to be involved today. Also, thank you to the other legislators here. You know, we've been having a lot of talks with them, definitely since last August, of course, and also thank you to Police Jury President Craig Smith. You know, we've worked a lot with them in their office over the last several months. So, I mean, elephant in the room, you know, a lot of things have happened since August. You know, a lot of hardships for Louisiana, a lot of different things moving forward. But, you know, we're committed to Central Louisiana, and I'm happy to, you know, kind of share some things moving forward. You know, the biggest thing, you know, is reliability and affordability. You know, we have remote work, remote school, and we want to make sure that we keep kids and businesses connected to get things done. So in the investments area, due to the storms from Hurricane Laura and Delta, Settlelink spent over $150 million, private dollars, in a state-of-the-art network. So many different markets were destroyed, and we built it back up in less than 3 months. But that's not done, though. We have a lot of other areas that we need to improve on, one being customer service. That's a huge issue for a lot of your constituents and your communities here. So we're spending several $1 million to hire and train almost 500 more call center agents, and also having platforms online for customers to be able to use as another tool. RDOF has been floated around a lot this afternoon. We did participate in that. We were awarded census blocks in 8 different parishes across Louisiana, 3 right here in central Louisiana, Rapides, Avoyelles, and Sabine. So we're excited to really get in there and start moving through on some expansion. Also, we're upgrading broadband speeds in several markets. We recently did an equipment upgrade last year in Colleen, Buckeye, and DeVille to really improve our services in those communities. We're in the process of looking at several other markets in central Louisiana for those speed upgrades moving forward. So we got a lot of different moving parts, and we're excited to see where the future takes us. A few other programs have been mentioned today from the federal programs that we're going to assist with broadband affordability. The Emergency Broadband Benefit Program is an FCC program to help families and households struggling to afford internet service. Settlelink will be actively participating in this program to encourage our customers who are eligible to participate to receive up to $50 a month as subsidy. This is a $3.2 billion program passed down from Congress. Congress also did pass down $7.2 billion in E-rate. This is, broadband, funding broadband service for households to support mainly the school districts, are going to focus on households with students that can, really increase the number of households to get broadband. So not only are we doing our private investment dollars here as a company, like I said, it was over $150 million just to recover from the 2 hurricanes. But we're also going to work with the state, and also the federal government on this. Great job to Representative Desitel and Senator Mizell on your achievements last session for the Office of Broadband. I've already had several conversations with Beneath. We're going to have many more moving forward. So we're excited. We got 3 parishes just right here that I said in RDOF. That's just the first start. There's going to be more auctions down the road. So we're excited to kind of see where that takes us. So thank you.
Thanks, Southern League, for your investment in our area. Next, we have our own superintendent, Rapides Parish School Board Superintendent, Mr. Jeff Powell.
Thank you, Senator Womack, and especially thank you to Representative Johnson, always a friend and somebody that we can reach out to and connect with, not just in times of need, but when things are going pretty good too. So we're extremely thankful for this meeting, and thankful. I just want to piggyback Beneath. We have a saying here. I need you to go ahead and grab it, okay? All right. It's called Better Together. That's right. And that's who we are in Rapides Parish and all of Central Louisiana. To Senator Mizell's comments, we've seen dollars frittered away. The last 13 months have taught us a lot, not just about our character and who we are as a humanity, but it's taught us a lot about how we respond to adversity. And although we see these amounts of money coming in and different things happening that's supposed to be to support things like infrastructure and support things like making sure that we're prepared in the event of a global pandemic, which happened 100 or so years ago and now today. But I'm also serving on a continuous learning task force with the LDOE that understands that in the state of Louisiana, learning is often impacted also by hurricanes and tornadoes and floods and ice storms, and we have to be ready for those challenges even when there's no global pandemic. And so when we talk about being better together here in Rapides Parish, it's when we all come to an understanding that children who live in a home without adequate internet access, the research says, are 9 to 27 months behind their peers when it comes to academic achievement. So when we talk about having a more qualified workforce, Larkin and Deb, we've got to make sure that internet is there. We also know that if we want to make sure that our community has the opportunity to grow, whether it's in business and industry or educational outcomes, that our higher ed partners, Dr. Doney, and I saw others in the room today, Joe Rozier, all of those that have so much at stake with this, LSUA as well, then we have to make sure that business and industry have access to internet, high-speed broadband internet. We know those pockets, and as I heard different people speaking today, I know there's a lot of studying that has to take place. I know there's a lot of planning that has to take place. I know all these things has to happen, but we know what the problem is. And so I'm excited to see that the solutions are being brought to the table, especially the work that some of us have already been engaged in, thanks to Senator Long, pulling us all together a few weeks ago with Craig and others. In Rapides Parish, we want to be the best. We want to be ready. We want to be the first ones to try to get all of these things put together. And I believe we have the intellectual infrastructure in place to make sure that happens, and we're ready to go. And so whatever that process needs to look like, in Rapides Parish, we understand that we're going to be able to work together, both sides of the aisle, as they say down there in Baton Rouge or in D.C., everybody in our community. I thank God for our board members that are here, Mark Dryden, as well as Ms. Sandra Franklin, who's chair of our finance committee. We know that in order for our children to have a better opportunity, we've got to get them connected. The frittering away that happened in situations like this past year where we had to purchase long-term contracts for hotspots that then we find out can't connect to anything because there's no tower within 10 miles of that location, but that's money I can't get back. That's money that's gone. And so for us to be able to make the progress that we know we can make, when we finally have the financial resources, or at least the financial resources should not be a barrier, Rapides Parish folks are committed to working together, and we're going to do this. We want to be the first. We want to be the best at it. So thank you for your support. Thank you, Mike, for bringing us all together all the time, and we're going to do this thing.
Thank you, Jill. Our last speaker, Mr. Levere Greenhouse with AT&T.
Good evening, Senator Womack, Representative Johnson, thank you for having us. My name is LeVar Greenhouse, Regional Director for AT&T. So what everyone else said, AT&T, we're invested in Central Louisiana. That's why I'm here today. That's why my coworker Matt Adams is here today. To Superintendent Powell's point, AT&T understands that we are better together. So I'm here to hopefully reassure you guys that Central Louisiana is not forgotten about by AT&T. We're looking at ways to invest technology, whether it's our wireless technology or wireline technology, to make sure that people that's working from home, learning from home, doing telehealth, that they have access to our technology. We're also looking at ways to make it more affordable, whether it's through our access offer or there's other offers that we have to make sure that homes that want that connectivity have not only access to that connectivity, but that connectivity is affordable. But we're also finally looking at ways, how can we, once that internet, that broadband service is placed out there, how can we educate the community to have that digital literacy, to understand how to safely use the internet. My mom's 80 years old. Every time she comes to my house, or I go to her house, she asks me questions about how do I use my iPhone, how do I use the internet. So we want to make sure that we're partnering with groups that once this technology is placed, to educate the community on how to use it, how to safely use it. That way when they access it, is done in a safe manner and in an efficient manner. So like everyone else said, I'm accessible. I'll be at the end of the table. If you have any questions, I have my card. If you need to call me, please call me or email me to discuss anything that you have. So thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we just got a few minutes. I'd like to turn to our legislative colleagues here that we appreciate y'all being here and being part of this. I appreciate our central delegation. Like I say, nobody gets anything done by themselves. So, Senator Luno, if you got anything you'd like to say, I'd like to recognize. Senator Bernard.
You know, Senator Mizell's granddaughter said in the beginning what she should have said and didn't, so I'm going to say that. We need it. Not in the hour and the number of people that are talking.
Representative Furman.
Well, I never speak longer than Senator Bernard, but I'm right in this case. So, I've even got notes, so I hope that's okay, Mike. But I want y'all to think for a minute about how connected North Rapides is to my district, Grant and LaSalle. We've got 4 major highways connecting our parishes. In fact, if you go from Togue to Creola or from Ball to Pollock, you probably don't even realize that you entered Grant Parish. We've grown that much, but I think in a very real sense, we're connected more by physical infrastructure than by digital infrastructure. I think the digital divide runs right along the parish line. 13% of LaSalle Parish has access to high-speed internet. About 40% of Grant Parish. LaSalle Parish has, for many, many months now, the lowest unemployment in the state. Grant Parish is the fastest growing parish in Central Louisiana. But you know the first question people ask when they look at moving to Grant and LaSalle, it's not how good are your schools, how safe are your neighborhoods, what are your internet speeds? And we cannot give them a good answer now. Laura and I shared the Delta Regional's Facebook post for the speed test. It's got a lot of response. Mine is 2.47 download speed. Some of the other ones we got is 0.4, 0.72, and 0.21. So we've got a lot of work to do there. And Superintendent Powell talked about working together. I hope Rapides works together, but I also think there's a lot to be said for a regional approach, and I commend Representative Johnson for forming the Central Louisiana Caucus, and we have talked about this many times. Senator Bernard and I have met many times. Senator Long, thank you. We met up at the courthouse. We have formed in Grant Parish a broadband commission comprised of state and local government leaders, agriculture, healthcare, you name it. So thank you for that guidance. And for the local government people here and education, healthcare, I would encourage you to have an open mind and get creative. Senator Bernard and I attended a meeting in Goldana a couple months ago. Not much internet in Goldana, but they got $1 million grant to run fiber to the elementary school. The school board says this is such a great opportunity. We're kicking in $400,000 to help give internet to every citizen in Goldana. So that's a good way we can work together, I think, and be better together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Representative Lorman?
Thank you all for being here. We're going to work together as a team to make it happen. I want to thank Senator Mizell, Senator Long, thank you for being here. STL, thank you for what you do, and we're going to do this because healthcare and education are vital. And if we want to grow this area, we have to be able to connect with each other. So once again, thank you all for being here.
Representative Shimon Horn?
We all know how important this is, and we just don't need to slow down. We just need to continue working, and with the help of Senator Mizell and Desitel's knowledge, you know, I think we're going to see great strides in the next couple of years, and hopefully rural America will not be left and forgotten about. Thank you.
I want at this time thank all of our panelists today for making the effort to come and be here and be a part of this. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate all of you being here. I hope that we had time for some group questions, but I'm hoping if I could ask our panelists if you'll just hang around for a little while and you can ask them your questions directly. I know there was something that Representative Deschatel forgot to tell us, and I'm going to remind him. Tell us about the grant request that probably one of the most important things that you need to.
Is this on? That's actually why I came here. And I stood up there and I didn't talk about it. But so thank you, Representative Johnson, for reminding me. So I have a bill right now that's actually, it just came out of the Commerce Committee this past week, which establishes a broadband grant program in the state of Louisiana. It'll be funded initially with $180 million. And the concept is to have private industry apply for grants, but that private industry needs to be teamed up with communities and municipalities to be able to apply for the grant. And the thought is what the superintendent said, we are better together, and I personally believe if this is going to be successful, the community has to be involved. So that's part of why the grant is the way it is. I'm also excited to know that some of my colleagues that are on some of the financial committees, which I'm actually on one of them, there may actually be more money. So I can't let the cat out the bag yet, but there may be even more money. So we're thinking that with some matches, some private matches, with the public may have some match, that we may be talking, $500 million in this grant program before it's over with, which, and that's real money. So I'm really excited about it. It's targeted to rural areas, people that are unserved. When I say unserved with the FCC's definition of unserved, which is 25.3. I think everybody's kind of talked about that a little bit, but so that's actually a lot of our state, believe it or not. So I'm really excited about the grant program. We'll come out of another committee next week, and then it'll go to the House floor. Then it's actually duly referred, so I have two Senate stops, and then the Senate floor. So it's got a long way to go, but it has a tremendous amount of support. It has the support of both, the House and the Senate, the governor's office, Democrats, Republicans alike. So it's a good program, and we're really excited about trying to get it kicked off as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Beneath, you have something else you need to?
Sorry. So I would regret not making this ask on the drive home to Baton Rouge. But Johnny said something that was really interesting to me. I don't know if any of you guys picked up on it, but he mentioned hiring, how many people, Johnny? Not to put you on the spot.
A little over 40.
How many of all of you guys want all those jobs in Louisiana? Raise your hand. So I would suggest you do, because we're all better together. Johnny, make sure that we have jobs in Louisiana. So please make sure you do a beeline to Johnny, send him your requests and wishes, and you want those jobs in Louisiana so that we can all improve customer service together. So thank you.
Beneath, I've actually located a call center in Alexandria for Johnny, but I don't know if they bought on there yet, but I'm working on it. So we're going to keep doing that. Anyone else from our distinguished panel? You know, I heard our superintendent, who, I got to tell you, I don't know what area he's not a leader in, and we're not going to talk about details, but we've got a problem. He starts looking for solutions, and he's working on things right now to bring local private and public entities together to solve some of those problems with broadband for some of our children. I don't speak that. I mean, you know, CB radio was about the extent of technology that I have, but I'm learning. But we've got a superintendent that's doing that right here in Rapides Parish. I am so honored that all of you travel from all of the areas of our state to be here. This is what it's going to take. They now know where Pineville is. They now know where Louisiana College is. And we're going to stay in touch with them and keep them involved, because this is our universe right here in central Louisiana. And I just appreciate all of you for being here.
If I could add, we joined Lonnie 2 years ago, it was an optical network infrastructure. Louisiana College is now the hub for central Louisiana, bringing more Wi-Fi. We went from 1 gig to 2, we're on our way to 10 on our campus. And therefore, it's going to make it more available to the community. And we just are about to add an AT&T cell tower for our campus.
Fantastic. And that's a grant that made that possible, wasn't it? That was a big grant that you were awarded, that you applied. Did a lot of begging. Okay. All right. I encourage you to stick around for a little while, talk to these people, give them your ideas, ask your questions, and I appreciate you being here on a rainy day. It's always great to bring all of you together. Before you leave, I'd like to call on Sean Chestovich to dismiss us. So on your way out, if you'll just stand and give me just a second. Sean?
If you'll just all bow your heads with me real fast. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for allowing us to gather today as a group of concerned Louisianians with the same goal, to be better together, to make our state better, our communities better, and educate our young. Dear Lord, I pray that you put a hand of guidance on the private sector, the government, personal entities, and everyone working on this issue. I pray for safe travels for everyone as we head home, and most importantly, I thank you for all that you do for us. In your name we ask, amen.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you in May.